Hi everybody, welcome to the Beading Dreams Wednesday evening tutorial stream. Any of you who are on Discord probably saw the notification already that Heather is under the weather today, so I told her to keep her germy self at home. So we will not be doing the button list after this tutorial, but we will be doing this fun project today. This is pomegranate earrings, and it's a fun tutorial, I think, because it covers a lot of ground. So we are going to cover sawing, which is excising the outer part of a shape from metal. We're going to cover piercing, which is removing metal to create a shape on the inner surface of the metal without a path, from the outside to the inside. And we are also going to be doing some finishing. We're going to be creating a matte finish using steel wool and sandpaper, which is a fun way to finish your projects. That's just got a little bit of a different look to it than your typical high polish finish. So this is the sample for this evening's tutorial, and we're gonna see what the camera wants to do with that. So I made this one out of sheet brass. The project I'm gonna do tonight, I'm gonna do out of sheet bronze. Also, hello autofocus, there's nothing else to focus on. And yet you've decided to focus on my palm instead of on the actual project. Good job, autofocus. And by good job, I mean absolutely terrible job. Also, I turned up the exposure and it doesn't seem to be working. So let's do a little bit of producing on the fly. I always think that I've got everything set so I don't have to do this, and yet I always have to do this. So Lori, what have you cooked lately that's fun? Because I know there's got to be something. Because there always is with you. Okay, there's some light. And alright, so we're going to try that for focus. Oh, there's a sneeze in there. Don't know when it's coming out. But so anyway, so this is 24 gauge sheet brass. I'm going to use 24 gauge sheet bronze for the project tonight. I've used little garnet teardrops for my pomegranate seeds, but you can use whatever you want to. And then my ear wire is sterling silver. This is just something that is a peculiarity of mine. I don't like making ear wires out of brass or bronze because they tend to turn people's ears green. By people, I mean me. But you could use gold fill with the brass as well. I don't know why, but I just decided that I was in a two-tone mode, so sterling silver it was. Ah, Singapore noodles, yum. I actually have pork marinating in my fridge, so tonight, since I get off early because no button list, I'm making spring rolls. I'm super excited. Spring rolls, one of my favorite things ever. Okay, so let's talk tools and supplies for this evening's tutorial. You're going to need some 24 gauge sheet metal. Once again, I've got 24 gauge sheet bronze that I'm using tonight, but you could use brass, you could use copper, sterling silver, gold filled, anything. If you are using gold filled, you just want to make sure if you're going to do the satin finish, the cladding is thick enough that you're not going to sand it off. So 24 gauge sheet metal of some variety. You're going to need 20 gauge wire, and you're going to need about 8 inches of that. If you want to make the longer ear wires, you could of course make a shorter ear wire. There's nothing wrong with that. You're going to need some little beadies for your for your pomegranate seeds. So like I said, I'm using garnets. And then you're going to need something to hang your beads with. So I'm going to do gold filled 26 gauge wire for that. As far as tools go, you are going to need your bench pin. You're going to need your jeweler's saw with a 2/0 saw blade. You are going to need a drill or a hole punch to start your piercing. You're going to need all of your pliers, your round nose, your chain nose, and your wire cutters. Except I have a chain nose, and a wire cutter. So I'll fix that in a minute. To do rubber cement. Your template. So this is literally, I just Google image searched pomegranate drawing, and this was one that I found. If you look real close, you can literally see like the proprietary like little Shutterstock bubbles, but it doesn't matter because I'm just going to use it as a template. And what I actually did, you can see, is my original template I had stuck down in my metal, and I just put that whole thing on my scanner and I photocopied it. So your template of whatever you're going to saw. And right. Okay, so this is a little cheatery. You do need your torch, but like just for 2 seconds. And you're gonna need something to hold your metal and your torch in. So tweezers or your pliers. So I'm gonna real quick go grab a round nose pliers, and I also did not grab a torch. So the torch is only going to be used to make our ear wires, so we don't need to worry about pickle or super pickle or anything like that, because we're just going to make our wires, and I like to kind of leave them oxidized and gunmetal-y. Thank you. Okay, so I'm going to start with our template, and I'm just going to grab a paper scissors, and I want to cut that out. I don't want to cut on the lines of my shapes. I just want to cut out pretty much 2 rectangles. So 2 rectangles, each of which has a shape on it. Now we're going to go ahead and access our, I read pickled 4 green peppers. And now that kind of makes me wonder how that would taste. God, everything is dying here in Texas. It's 8,000 degrees. Everything is dying, and I can grow flowers forever and ever, but I cannot grow freaking vegetables. Like, all of my pepper plants are dying, and they're supposed to like the heat, and I water them twice a day, and they're still dying. And my herbs are dying, and my lantanas, I don't even understand about the lantana, because that one's beyond me. But oh, it's just miserable here. Okay, so now let's go ahead and we're going to take these babies and we're going to stick them down to this metal, and we're going to do that with our good old Elmer's rubber cement. Hi, Tallyfet. Oh gosh, gardening in the desert. Yeah, that's not a thing. You could grow prickly pears. My aunt actually, when she lived in Tucson, so I'm going to take my rubber cement and I'm just going to put a decent coating on the back. I don't want it to be super blobby, but I want it to be fully coated. And then I'm going to press that down firmly onto my metal and kind of give it a little burnish with my fingers. So my aunt actually, when she lived in Tucson, she would go pick the prickly pear fruits from the side of the road and make like prickly pear lemonade and prickly pear jam and all that. 77 degrees. I feel like Carol and Heather will be on the way shortly, Lori. Oh, I don't know. I don't know if I want to try vegetables again next year for like the 4th time, or if I should just manage my expectations and not do it. Okay, so there are my 2 templates, and it's always a little bit easier to cut if it's not so big. So I'm just going to take and I'm going to chop off the excess of this metal. Southern Alberta. So what are the heat wave temperatures? Oh, wow. Rain in the desert is always such a spectacular experience because all the arroyos just like whoosh, full of water. It's crazy. Okay, so I've got that. So those are my templates. So now I'm going to saw. Now I am going to use the saw on both the inside and the outside of these because your saw is going to give you a better cut. It's going to give you a prettier cut than your shears, especially with all these kind of pointy bits. I'm also just going to make a slight modification just to make sure that I don't screw up, is I'm going to cut this in a circle. So I'm going to get rid of this little pointy bit here, and you know, all the rest of this stuff is just not going to be applicable. So it's a little bit easier if you cut your insides first and then cut your outsides. Ugh, yeah. Though I think here in Dallas, I was talking to one of the tellers at the bank, I think it's been a solid like 30 days since we've had rain here in Dallas. So oof is all I have to say about that. Okay, so I'm gonna pierce the insides out first. That's a little easier because I have more to hang on to. So what I need to do is I need to pop a hole in each of these inside sections. So when you're making a hole for piercing, you can use a drill or you can use a hole punch. And so I'm going to use my screw down hole punch today. And you just want to make sure when you're punching this hole, you want your hole to be within the part, I've got escaping blue diamonds, within the part that's going to be removed. Okay, so this is all what I'm removing, so I want to make sure I punch my hole somewhere in there rather than here in the place that I am keeping. So I'm going to put my 2 holes there. Wow, that far north for us and still supposed to get to 100 degrees? We did not actually get to 100 degrees today in Texas, which is great because tomorrow it's supposed to be 107. So I'm just going to screw that punch down and then twist. And you can feel it kind of pop through the metal, and then you're going to back it up until the metal falls off the punch on its own. And so there is my 1 hole right there. And now I'm going to do my other hole. Yeah, and for 5 seconds there was a thunder shower in the forecast for Sunday, but that's gone now. So no rain. I feel like there was a song about that. Okay, so now I've got my 2 holes punched. I am going to take my saw, and I've got my saw blade loaded into the bottom receptacle of my saw frame, and I'm going to load my metal onto my blade. So I'm going to put my blade through that hole. You can see that there. And then I'm going to put tension on my blade. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my saw, I'm going to compress it against the table, and then I'm going to screw this top nut closed. So I'm going to just compress it and drop that saw blade in there and then screw it closed. And so you want to make sure it's nice and tight, which it's not gonna ding really nice for you when you got the metal on it, so you just kind of have to go by feel. I'm going to take my bench pin and I'm going to set that up on the edge of my table. So if you were a real jeweler who had a real jeweler's bench, you would have actually a spot for your bench pin that would just slot in. Since I don't have a proper jeweler's bench, I use this clamp-on one, which doesn't necessarily do me any favors on this table because this table doesn't really like it, but I love when I'm like changing the focus and it's not doing anything. It's super awesome. Like, no, we refuse to focus. Of course, that's pretty much what my brain's like every day. All right, I guess that's as good as we're gonna get for focus. Oh my God. Yeah, cooler for Talifet and us at 95 to 98, and Lori's gonna be sitting pretty at 60. Serious, don't tell Heather because she'll be gone. I think my only saving grace is I really don't think that she would drive to Canada on her own. She'd have to enlist Carol to help. Okay, so now we're gonna saw this or pierce this. So technically, if you are if you're once again, if you're removing metal from the inner border of something, it's piercing. So I'm just going to take my saw, I'll hold my saw straight up and down, and I'm just going to start sawing. Once I get to that line, I'm just going to turn my saw and I'm going to follow along this curve. Now remember, when you're sawing, hold it lightly, not like you're going to beat somebody with it. You're going to hold it with 2 fingers. These 3 fingers are for balance. And your primary motion that you want to be thinking about doing is just straight up and down. Okay? If you think about going forward, a couple of things have a tendency to happen. First of all, the head of your saw tends to start leading, and that is not going to help your cutting accuracy any. And then also, if you push too hard forward, all of a sudden your saw blade is going to get bound up in the metal, and it's not going to want to move at all. So just up and down, and it will pretty much move through the metal almost of its own accord. Right? Yeah. I will say, though, having gone for 30 hours without air conditioning, whatever that was 2 weeks ago, like, I am so appreciative right now of all of the climate control. Because literally, by the time the AC tech finally got there to fix the AC on Monday, it was 100 degrees in the house. It was miserable. It was so bad. Okay, so there we go. So that is the center of that taken out. Now I'm going to just go ahead and do the other one for good measure. But yeah, it's just nasty, nasty gross. Ugh. Okie dokie, here we go. So notice that I'm supporting on both sides with my fingers, and it's okay to put your finger behind the blade because there are no teeth on that side of the blade. Oh, it's true, Tally-Fet, but I'm sorry, 110 is miserable no matter what, in my opinion. Okay, now the one time you want to be careful about your fingers is when you're reaching the end of your cut, because your saw will jump. So when you're getting to the end of your cut, you don't want to have a finger in front of the blade. You want to get your fingers out of the way of the blade. Okay, do you see how it kind of jumped forward? So you just want to make sure, once again, that your fingers are out of the way of the blade. Okay, so that's my 2 pierced sections of my pomegranate. Now I'm just going to reload my saw blade. Make sure it's got some good tension. There we go. Ooh, okay, I lost... We don't have, I mean, we do have mosquitoes here in Texas, but I was gardening on Sunday, and I definitely lost a battle with some freaking fire ants. There's those, and then that one, and then there's like 5 on my feet. Fire ants are the devil. They are the devil. They are the devil in a tiny little evil insectoid package They're the worst. I hate them so much. Like, I like to think that I am fairly tolerant of most of Mother Nature's creatures, even cockroaches who I don't really like. I will catch them and eject them from my home. I won't smash them or anything. And, you know, spiders, as long as they're not trying to murder me, I'm fine with them. But fire ants, no. Fire ants and mosquitoes, instant kill. Like, die bugs die. Can't stand it. But yeah, they had taken over one of my big pots, so I went to move the pot, and all of a sudden they're like all over me. Little jerk faces. Okay, so back to sawing. So now I'm going to saw out the outside. So I'm just going to go around the outside now to do the other part of my... Oh, okay. Knock on wood, biting flies, not a thing I've ever had to deal with. But did you know in Houston the cockroaches fly? Because I didn't know that when I moved to Houston. They fly and they are not afraid of humans. They will dive bomb your ass. Oh, that was a really unpleasant experience when I first discovered flying roaches. Whoo. Okay, so the key here to moving quickly is using more of your blade. Also, if you find your blades getting bound up a bit, you can put a little bit of just saw lubricant on it. Oh God. Okay, I swear to God, cockroaches don't fly in Wisconsin. Maybe I've just lived a charmed existence, but I never encountered a freaking flying roach until I was in Houston, and so my first apartment in Houston, there was this kind of, because most of the apartments in Texas are open air entry. Like, this is something that was hard for me to get used to. I'm going to saw and talk at the same time. Because in Wisconsin, because of the cold, most apartment buildings are like a large building with one door, and then that door, you know, opens onto hallways where all of the apartment doors are. Whereas here in Texas, it's more like, you know, a large courtyard, and each apartment has its own door that, you know, empties into the courtyard. But there's not like a one community entrance to the building. But in this apartment, there was, from the parking lot, there was the kind of this corridor where the mailboxes were, and then you got down into the courtyard where all, you know, where the doors to your apartments were. And I had a standoff with a tree roach in the corridor, and I did not win. The roach actually like came at me and like hit me in the chest and bounced off, and then like hit me in the head, and by that point I was like flailing and running. Yeah, that was not my proudest moment. The tree roach definitely got me. Okay, so I'm just gonna follow this curve around. Okay, so when I come to a sharp turn like this one here, what I want to do is I kind of want to tread my saw up and down while turning my metal. If I stop my saw, I'm not going to be able to turn it and start again because my saw blade is going to twist. So you got to keep it moving. It's essentially just cutting itself out a little turnaround pathway. Oh God. Ugh. Okay, but even roaches, despite the fact that the flying ones are really freaking unsettling, is, you know, I won't smash them. I will repatriate them to the outside, because I know they have a purpose. I know fire ants have a purpose, but I cannot get on board with them. And I know mosquitoes have a purpose too, which is mainly to be food for critters that I like much better than them. But I just, cannot with the bitey things. Ooh, but it is exciting. So my back garden is all dying, but my front garden is doing very well. And I have salvia in my front garden, which does really well in the Texas heat. I need to put more of it up there. But there are always bees on it when I go out there. Little fat bumblebees, which is awesome. Fat little fuzzbutt bees. Once again, don't have your finger in front. I know, right? Yeah, I once, in a science class once, I was like, what is the purpose of mosquitoes? And the answer is their purpose is to be food. Not just for dragonflies, but for lizards and toads and frogs and spiders. Like, their only purpose is to be a prey species. But yes, why do they have to be so obnoxious? There's another fire ant wheel under there. But yes, I think we would all vote to get rid of the mosquitoes if we could, because my goodness. What an unlikable species. I mean, tree roaches may be nasty, but they're not actually going to try and suck your blood. The wow, vampire tree roaches. Oh, that would be terrible. Please don't let anybody ever invent that. Okay, so I'm very close to being done with my second one, and then we're going to talk about doing some surface finishing. And the good thing about this surface finishing is it tends to take care of the edge finishing as well. So by doing the sanding and the steel wool on the surface, we're probably not going to have to do very much, if any, actual edge finishing. And you can see I came a little bit off my line right there, but since this is kind of an abstract interpretive version of a pomegranate, I'm not going to worry about that too much. If I really want to, I can always just cut that in with a half round file. So as you get to the end, you need to make sure that you're supporting it from both sides, otherwise it's just going to kind of start warping and being annoying. And catching your saw blade, which is not fun. There we go. Okay, so those are my two pomegranates cut out. Done with the saw. Hang there. All right, so those are my two little pomegranates, all cut out from the metal. Now, if you want, you can reverse these when you're doing earrings. You can make one going one way and one going the other way. That would technically be the proper way to do it, but sometimes I do that, sometimes I don't. I'm going to go ahead and put a hole in each of these for my ear wire, and I don't want to use this dot here because it's off center, and I want it to be more on center, so I'm just going to pop it right there and right there. And I'm going to use my screw down punch to punch those holes. So you just want to screw it down until it's holding the metal and you can visually verify that it is in fact on your dot. And then you're just going to twist it till it pops through and then back it up until your metal falls off of your punch by itself. So there's my one hole. And then we're going to do the other hole. Okay, and at this point now we really don't need our template anymore, so we can take that off. And this is why I use rubber cement for this, because your template will literally peel. Once you get it started, it'll peel right off of your metal and it won't leave any residue, which is nice. Because why make extra work for yourself? I'm just going to kind of scratch at it till I can grab some. There we go. And then literally just peel it off of there. See? No sticky stuff. Now this one I'm going to need to do just a tiny bit of cleanup with a file right here, because you can see it's not quite round on the bottom. So I'll grab my file in a minute and I'll fix that. Just going to grab a file for this one, for this kind of pointy bit here, and I'm just going to brace that on my bench pin and just file that smooth. Or not file it smooth, but file that point away. File it to a curve that matches the rest of your shape, more like that. And I've got just a little bit of a burr on this one, so I am going to do the same thing and I'm going to file that away as well. Okay, so now let's talk finishing. So we're going to do a 320 grit sandpaper and steel wool finish on these. That means I'm going to take my 320 grit sandpaper and I'm just going to fold it into kind of a small little rectangle, and I'm going to take it and I'm just going to go in circles all over the surface of my metal. I feel like you should be able to see this better. So where do we go to vote to get rid of the mosquitoes, just out of curiosity? Like, where do we put in that petition? Because I would like to do so if possible, but I don't know where. So Keiko, if you can do that research, that'd be great. Okay, so alright, so there we go. So I'm just taking my 320 grit sandpaper and I'm just going in circles all over the surface. Okay, so you can see how that's making more of kind of a matte sort of scratch finish look. And then we're just going to flip that over and do the same on the other side. Ooh. Yeah, when it gets really bad here, they'll have like planes flying over the neighborhood, dropping, you know, mosquito stuff. There were a couple years where West Nile was really bad here, that they were doing it practically every night, but I don't think they're doing it this year either. I haven't heard any mosquito planes flying over. And I know people get up in arms because the stuff they use to kill the mosquitoes also kills the pollinators, which, you know, is not great. But at the same time, nobody wants to get bit to death. Okay, so now I'm going to do the same on the other earring. So what this has done, this sandpaper finish, is it took off my burr from my punching, and it's done a really good job of rough finishing my edges. When we get to the steel wool, it'll be even better. If you want to do this with a rotary tool instead of by hand, the finish that this gives you at this point is about equivalent to a yellow wheel, a yellow radial bristle disc wheel, and then if you want to refine it more, you can go to a blue radial disc wheel. Okay, so then once you've done the whole thing with your sandpaper, then you're going to go back with your steel wool, and you're just going to buff up the surface with the steel wool. And that's going to give you a really pretty kind of satin finish, which I really like. Alright, so that's our final finish, and like I said, our steel wool has also done a really good job of knocking down all the edges so that I now have an earring that I can wear fairly easily without scratching anything. So, and with the steel wool, it's not as important that you go in circles. Sometimes they still do, but it's not quite such a big deal. Alright, so there we go. Alright, so at this point I am done with my bench pins, so we can go ahead and take that away. Maybe, come on. Alright, bench pin done, steel wool dust off, and okay. So here we are now with our two little pomegranates. Okay, so now we are going to make our ear wires, and this is where we're going to cheat and use our torch, but just for a minute. So I'm going to take my 8 inches of wire, and I'm going to cut that in half. Ooh, no yawning. Totally eyeballed that and got it exactly right. Go me! Okay, so I'm going to grab my torch and light it up. Make sure that my camera's not in the way. The igniter on this torch is not very good. Alright, and then I'm just going to grab my wire and I'm going to lower it into the flame until it starts to ball up. Okay, so that is extremely unfocused, but you can see what happened was that my wire turned into a little kind of crunchy ball at the end. If you don't want crunchy balls, if you want smoother balls, go ahead and use fine silver wire instead of sterling silver. Fine silver makes prettier balls, but it's also softer and less durable for an ear wire. Alright, so I'm just going to drop that in the flame. So the way that I'm doing this is I've got my torch going and I'm literally lowering my metal into my flame. I'm just holding it there, and as it starts to ball up, I'm just going to keep lowering it further and further into the flame so that ball keeps getting bigger and bigger. You are going to eventually reach a critical mass on this where the ball's going to drop off, so you kind of have to know when to hold them and know when to fold them. So there's my other ball, and then I can turn off my torch. Okay, so I totally just cheated and used my torch for a tutorial that wasn't a torch tutorial. If you don't have a torch or you don't want to use a torch, you can just make a little curly Q in the end of that instead of balling it up. Okay, so as far as parts go, I have my, hi Silver, how are you? All right, so as far as parts go, I've got my pomegranates cut out and I've got holes drilled in them. I've got my 2 ear wire pieces that are balled up and ready to be made into actual ear wires. Now I'm going to go ahead and make my garnet pieces, and so that is going to be wire wrapping, which is going to involve my 26 gauge wire. So first thing I'm going to do is check out my garnets and find 6 that look fairly similar in size and shape. Look, autofocus actually focused on a thing. That's crazy. Oh, worky work. I'm familiar with the problem. 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, so I'm going to do 6. You can really do as many as you want, but 6 is a good number for a tutorial because it's not going to take a jillion years to do. So there we go. 6. I'm like, that's only 5. So 26 gauge wire. I'm going to cut myself a decent sized piece, not a giant piece, but a piece that's long enough to work off of. So, oh, that was totes an avalanche. Whoops. I'll clean that up tomorrow. So I'm going to cut myself a little more than a foot. I know, these are really pretty, and the color of them is gorgeous as well. All right, so now I know it's, yeah, it's like floor paperwork and floor repairs, unfortunately. So again, tomorrow I say. As I am tired panda tonight. Okay, so take your wire, thread it through the hole in your bead so that you have a short side and a long side. Like so. So your short side should be 1 inch or 2. Okay, come on, face. I just have to make it through the end of this tutorial. Your short side should be 1 inch or 2. The long side should be the entire rest of your wire. Now you're going to take your wire and you're going to bend it up against. Okay, this autofocus is just like, it's killing me at this particular moment. Like, I cannot with the autofocus. All right, so take your 2 wires and bend them up against the hole of the bead to make a triangle. And you want the point of that triangle ideally to be pretty much centered over the point of above the point of the bead. Sorry, I did sleep last night, I promise. Yesterday was just a really long ass day. Okay, now I'm going to take chain nose pliers and I'm going to grab the longer of those 2 wires directly above the point where the wires cross, and then I'm just going to bend it straight up. They are silver, and there are more for sale. They're $5 each. Okay, so I'm going to take that, and now what I've done is I have centered the wire over the central axis of the bead. Now I'm going to take the short wire and I'm going to wrap it around the long wire about 1.5 times. Like so. And then I'm going to trim that wire off. and press that down so that it doesn't stick out and jab the person who's wearing these, whether that be you or someone else. Now, I'm going to grab my round nose pliers, which are here. Yay, I thought they were on the floor, but they're not on the floor. That's good. So now we're going to do a basic wire wrap loop. So you grab your round nose pliers, you're going to place them so that they're touching the top of that wrap. We're going to go away, rotate, back up over the top, rotate, underneath to make our ever popular lady with a scarf. And then we're going to hold across that loop. So what I'm doing is I'm holding both sides of the loop with my pliers, and then I'm going to wrap down until I reach the end of wire that's already there. Like so. And then we're going to trim. Trim as close as you can, and then press that end down. And if you did everything right, when you press that end down, it should just come to meet the end that's already there. All right, and then we have one wire wrap drop. So now we're just going to go ahead and wrap the other 5. So these are going to be the little seeds of our pomegranate. So again, through, and up. Make sure you pull nice and tight so you get a really good triangle here. And then you're going to center up the long wire and wrap the short one around the long one. So not more than 2 times, because remember we're going to be coming back down from the top. And we don't want our wire wrap to be hugely long. So now you're going to go ahead and trim and press that down. And then basic wire wrap. Away, rotate, back up over the top, rotate, and underneath to make the lady with a scarf, and then hold across like so, and wrap. You're just going to wrap down until you meet the end that's already there, then trim and press it down like so. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and do these other 4 pretty quickly so we can get to finishing the project. So once again, anybody who's just joining us, Heather is under the weather. We do not have a Heather tonight, so we are not going to be doing an episode of the Button List podcast after this stream. This is, once I'm done with this project, this is going to be it for us for the night, but we will be back tomorrow here on twitch.tv/Beading Dream with a live merchandise sale. So don't miss that. Hopefully Heather will be here with me, but if not, then she will be working remotely, where her germy plaguiness cannot infect the rest of us. Oh. Okay, well now my pliers are on the floor, so I will get those in a moment. Think. Okay. Come here, floor pliers. Oh, yes. Got it. Okay, so what's going on with all of you? I mean, I I know we have Zoom on Saturday and we can catch up then, but who's got exciting news? Anything? Aside from it being a bazillion degrees in Arizona, just like it is a bazillion degrees here in Texas, because it is definitely a bazillion degrees. And no rain anywhere in the forecast, which is just gross. Oh, Keiko. Well, I'm excited that you're here, so that's exciting news. Also, what is my necklaces doing? What are my necklaces doing? Oh, yeah. Yay, Silver! So what are you getting? Inquiring minds want to know. Yeah, there's a really funny article in D Magazine that was online that was, you know, an obituary for my lawn. It's a Positively Crafty raid! Hi, readers! Welcome in! How are you? Let's see, Silver, and I'm gonna take a wild-ass guess and say that it might be a dragon. What do you think? Am I right? Am I wrong? So welcome, raiders. Welcome in. Okay, Positively Crafty, what were you doing? Woo! What were you doing on your stream? Woo! Yay! I was correct. We're doing earrings, beading a dragon. Oh my god, that's amazing. That's freaking fantastic. Love. Oh, that's funny. I was actually guessing what Silvern was gonna get as her tattoo. So I'm just all correct with the dragon guessing. Go me. I mean, I feel like if you're gonna be guessing, dragons is a safe guess. At least in this particular pie slice of humanity, dragons all around. Exactly. I mean, dragons are never a bad guess, in my opinion. So we are not doing dragons tonight. There is a theme. We're doing these. These are pomegranate earrings. So we have, so I can talk, right? Yes, maybe. Sometimes yes, sometimes no. So we sawed out our little pomegranate shapes from 24 gauge bronze sheet. 3D beaded dragon. That's wicked cool. Yeah, talking is hard. I'm gonna have to go back and watch that just to marvel and sit in shock and awe. So we sawed out our little pomegranate shapes, and then we finished them with 320 grit sandpaper and steel wool. We used our torch to ball up the ends of the wires that are going to be our ear wires, and then now I am wire wrapping the little garnet beads that are going to be the seeds of the pomegranate. And that's just a basic top drilled wire wrap, but since I'm running a little over, I'm doing that not on camera. I did a couple on camera earlier, but it's faster if I do them not on camera, because if I hold them here, I can actually see them. If I hold them over there, not so much. So, Crafty, remind me, where are you, and what's the weather like? Because that's been a topic of discussion, because, of course, here in Dallas, it was a cool day today. It was only 96. No worries. Do it. Thank you, Crafty. But yeah, today was a cool day. It was 96 with a real feel of 97. Tomorrow we are back up to 107. 96 in Northern California. Okay. So you guys had the same day we had. Oh my gosh. I swear, the first time it rains, whenever the hell that is, I'm just gonna go out and like twirl around in it, because oh my lord, it's been so long since it rained. And then of course the first rainfall is probably going to be a downpour, and there's going to be a ton of flooding because all the ground is just like baked dry and can't absorb anything. So that's going to be incredibly fun. right. Yeah, it's dry here too, but ugh, it's just gross. It's so nasty. I do think it's a little humid just because everyone's sweaty and steamy. Or maybe that's just me. But like when you walk outside and like you've taken 2 steps outside and you're like, ew, I need a shower already. Like, yay, thank you, Crafty. Okay, go feed your chickens and your humans, and we'll see you soon. And thank you for the raid. Okay, so I'm on my last one, and then I'm going to show you how we're going to link these together. Because what I discovered when I was doing this project as a sample, these guys, is that you can't, if you link them together just with a ring, it's a little too short. And so we're going to make a wire wrap link that's a little bit longer. I know, right? Walking outside at a moderate pace should not involve sweating. And yet, during summer in Texas, it does. And I'm doing so much more laundry because I will normally, wear jeans a couple of times before I wash them, and shirts a couple of times before I wash them. But like when I get in and it's just all drenched in sweat, I'm like, no, laundry, all in laundry. Cannot stand. Yuck. Oh, really, camera? What was that for? Just like dramatic effect? Okay, so now let's talk about how we're going to link these together. So we're going to link them together with a double-ended wire wrapped loop. Pretty simple. It's just your basic wire wrap technique with 2 sides to it. It doesn't have to be extraordinarily neat or perfect because it will mainly be hidden behind your little metal piece here. So I'm going to take my round nose pliers and I'm going to give myself about 1 inch of wire on one end and the rest of the wires beneath my pliers. Now I am right-handed, so I'm holding my pliers in my right hand. I'm going to use my left hand to manipulate my wire. I'm going to push it over my pliers and away from me to make a 90-degree angle. Then I'm going to loosen my pliers, rotate them just 1/8 of a turn, and grab gently right on that corner that I just made. Then I'm going to take this small wire and I'm going to bring it back up over my pliers towards me and all the way down till it meets that other wire in the front. So you can see that's starting to form a loop around the pliers there. Then I'm going to loosen my pliers, rotate them independently of the wire 1/2 a turn, grab again, and then finish that circle by pushing that wire underneath my pliers and away from me. And this makes the construction that we call our lady with a scarf, because it looks like a lady if she were in a convertible driving along with the top down and a scarf trailing out behind her. I'm going to take this lady with a scarf and I'm going to grab 3 of my little garnet droppy guys, so 3 of these, and I'm going to thread all 3 of them onto this loop. So I'm just going to take the loop on my garnet and I'm going to thread it up the wire and into my lady's head. Sorry, lady. So that it is completely suspended inside that loop. So we're going to do 1 and 2 and 3. So there we go. So we got our 3 little drops that are now hanging. So I'm going to take my chain nose pliers and just hold it across that loop. And if I get some of my beads in there, that's fine. That's not the goal, but it's all right if it happens. And I'm going to take this wire and I'm going to wrap around 1.5 or 2 times. All right, and we're going to trim. Ta-da! And then we're going to press down. All right, now we're going to do the other side. So we're going to take our round nose and we're going to place them so that they are touching the top of the wrap that we just did, and we're going to do exactly the same thing. Away, rotate, back up over the top, rotate, yes, and underneath, again, to make my lady with the scarf. This one I don't have to link onto anything, so I'm just going to hold it and wrap. I think the line was actually, "Hello, lady. We ever find a lady. Hello, lady." Such a good movie. Like, such a staple of my childhood. Okay, so there we go. And also, like, kudos to Carrie Elwes, who has, like, reinvented himself as the creepy, like, older man character. He's really good at it. Like, I mean, so, you know, kudos to him for having, you know, grown out of the, you know, young, brash leading man role and into roles that are a lot more interesting and meaty, as opposed to him just being eye candy. Like, I had no idea he actually had acting chops, because, I mean, I love The Princess Bride, but, you know, it's campy. And I wouldn't say anybody in it's going to be nominated for a Best Actor. Oscar. I don't know why my brain keeps doing that, but it does. Best Actor Oscar. But yeah, I'm really pleasantly surprised with Carrie Elwes in his current iteration. Okay, so we're going to go away and rotate and back. And rotate and underneath. What's Mandy Patinkin doing, though? Because, I mean, he did that doctor show, and then I know he was touring for a while. What's he doing now? Just resting on his laurels, which would be well deserved. So I'm going to string these on. I'm going to put them into my loop. I know, right? Well, and he can sing. Did you know he can sing, Keiko? Because that was the thing that actually threw me. Okay, so I want all three of those in that loop. And, nope, all three, not just two, three. And then we're going to hold across the loop. And here's a little trick. If there's not much room, you can gently hold with your round nose pliers, because the tips are oftentimes much more narrow than your chain nose. You just have to hold gently. Yes, but he also, there was a doctor thing. Was it Chicago Hope? He was on a doctor show, I swear. This was a while ago. I'm dating myself. Wrap it around. Okay, that's funny, Lori. That's exactly what my mother said. She said she stopped watching it because it got too dark. Okay, so I wrap that, and now I'm going to press that in. And then I'm going to do my other loop. So I'm going to take my pliers, place them so that they're touching the wrap that I already did, and I'm going to go away, rotate back up over the top, rotate underneath. So what this does is it just gives us a slightly longer link than a jump ring, or than a small jump ring anyway, and then we're going to wrap down. Chicago Hope, thank you. I knew there was a doctor show. That was back when there were a bunch of competing doctor shows, because there was Grey's Anatomy and Chicago Hope and House. Like, there were lots of doctor shows at one point. Okay, so those are my two little pomegranate seed bundles. So now all I have to do is put these babies together. So we're going to take our ear wires, and we do want to take a minute to just file the ends of them. I forgot about that, Lori. Okay, so just make sure you file them to the point where they're not stabby. There we go. So now, you're going to grab your chain nose pliers, and you're going to take your little ball and you're just going to bend a sharp angle. You're going to thread your pomegranate on, so ideally you want it to sit pretty flush against that, and then you're going to take one of your seed clusters and you're going to thread that on, and it's going to sit ideally right in that little bend that you made. And I'm going to bend these two ear wires together, so I'm going to do my second one. So I'm just going to bend that. Again, I want a nice sharp angle. I'm going to thread on my pomegranate. And then my little seeds. You know, it's surprising how many television actors, you know, have also done Broadway. And then, you know, once they make their money in television, they go back and do Broadway because, you know, that for a lot of actors is their first love, which, you know, having grown up in live theater and, you know, worked in live theater, I really can't disagree with that. Okay, so there they are. Now we're just going to go ahead and bend our ear wires. So when you're bending your ear wires, I always find that it is better to bend them simultaneously. That way you make sure they're the same length. So I just have a cylinder. This happens to be a solder pick, but I mean, was it actually a secret, or was it just people didn't notice? Like, was he credited? I can't see how he could not have been credited. So we're just going to take our cylinder and we're going to position that about 3/4 of an inch above our pomegranates, and then we're just going to bend over. There we go. And then you can trim these if you want to. Since we already filed them, I'm going to go ahead and leave them long. But what I do like to do is I like to take my chain nose and I like to make a little bend up. Right, okay, people didn't... Right, well, yes, that's what they call doing voices. A lot of actors do it. And there we go. Oh, ah, stop falling down. All right, that's it. There we go. We did it. Yay! Pomegranate earrings. I like this project. It's fun. And once again, you have a lot of skills that we covered tonight. So we covered piercing, which is how to cut metal out from the inside of a shape without, thank you, Lori, without, you know, having a path from the outside to the inside. We covered sawing, which is how to cut a shape out of metal, but when you're using a jeweler's saw, you can get a much more precise cut and shape than if you're using a shears. We learned how to ball up the ends of our wire and how to make ear wires, and then we did review top drilled wire wrapping to make our little CD bits. So that is it. That's our pomegranate earrings. Thank you guys so much for hanging with us tonight. Once again, there will be no button list this evening because I have no Heather, so I would just be talking to myself on the internet, which is a little weird. But hopefully Heather will be feeling better tomorrow, whether she is feeling better or not. I will be back on this channel, twitch.tv/Beading Dream tomorrow with a live merchandise sale, which once again may or may not have a Heather. But thank you so much for hanging out with me and learning the pomegranate earrings. Thanks for chatting about theater and other random things. So everyone, stay cool, stay comfortable, stay dry, and I will see y'all back on this channel, twitch.tv/Beading Dream tomorrow for that sale around 6:30. Thank you so much. Hugs back to you, Keiko. Thank you, Lori. Thank you, Raiders. Please give us a follow if you're so inclined. We would really love it. And we also do have a Discord. And where's my keyboard? And so I'm going to real quick before I sign off, put that Discord info in the chat. So if you do want to join our Discord, we would love to have you over there, and that is the quickest and easiest way you can get news about what we're streaming and when, also when streams get canceled. So I think that's going to be it. So everyone have a great night. And I will see you all back on this channel, twitch.tv/Beading Dream. Tomorrow at 6:30. Also, I still don't have an outro screen, so you get the buttonless splash. Everyone have a good night. We'll see you tomorrow. Bye.